Hi, welcome back to another episode of Chris Dyer's Creative Friends, the super awesome podcast show where me, your artist friend Chris Dyer, talks to all his amazing creative friends. Today I'm in downtown St. Petersburg, my hometown, and I'm having a nice conversation with BirdCap, who is here in town to paint for a reggae festival. And we sit down by the water to have a beautiful conversation about his art career, murals, illustrations, soul expressions, beautiful human being. So I hope you will enjoy. Blessings.
While the world is burning, got to make amends. Walk on the sunny side with a positive lens. Talks about passion between the women and a man. Chris Dyer and his creative friends, darling. Ooh, ooh,
Michael.
Hello.
Woo! BirdCap, thank you so much for agreeing to do the super awesome podcast. Welcome to St. Pete.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks. Please tell us what you're doing here.
I am painting and installing some inflatables at Reggae Rise Up.
This is a reggae festival. Do you do a lot of reggae festivals?
This is my second time working with Reggae Rise Up and working with Matt, and it's cool, man. He gets a really deep roster of artists that I really look up to, so it's always fun just to be around them.
Right. The lineup is super good, like as good as a big mural festival, even though like the art is secondary for a music festival.
Yeah, it's incredible the network he has and the artists. I mean, they're from all over the world. We have Insane, we have Jax, Hyro, Scribe, who is like my biggest hero coming up, and Strom, you. It's impressive, man. I'm looking forward to seeing everyone's work.
Yeah, sick. And the last one you did was in Las Vegas, huh?
It was.
How was that?
It was great. There was a lot of good painters out there too. Had a lot of fun painting. The vibe was really interesting.
Wow, it's like a bunch of parrots.
They waited till we started the interview.
Yeah.
Yep.
I hope they don't poop on us. Cool. Do you like reggae?
I'm all for it. I don't listen to it in my downtime, but so it makes it exciting. All the music's new to me. Yeah.
I'm super excited. Like reggae has always been one of my favorite kinds of music since I was like, in my teens. And reggae festivals were some of my first festivals that I started getting out there as an artist. So I'm happy to do one in my own town, and
Right.
that all you awesome artists are here to paint with us. And but you're not really painting too much. You're doing inflatables.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I created 3 big blow-up monsters.
Okay.
And with my downtime, they have some collab walls, so I'm gonna get down on those with the guys.
So you will be painting a little bit.
I will be painting a little bit.
And tell me about these inflatables. Like the only other artist that I know does inflatables is Wizard Skull, who I interviewed in Brooklyn a couple weeks ago.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
It's fun, man. You just design them, and then I got this lady, Christine, who is in China, and she's really good at her job. So a lot of my job is just showing up and pushing them in the right place.
Yeah, so you're like art directing the construction of a thing.
Yeah, it's fun though when you have like I was saying earlier to you off air, when you have a style that's sort of honed in, it's really fun to change mediums and see how that style translates in 3D and in video, and so this is just an opportunity to sort of grow the style and the extension of like what I could build.
So like when you design these inflatables, do you like pay to construct them yourself and then you rent it to the festival, or do you propose it to the festival with some proof of concept and then they pay for its production?
Matt, the visual manager for Reggae, he saw my inflatables at my solo show, and he asked me if we could do that here. And so for this instance, he just bought them outright, and then we'll just sort of hopefully add on to them. Like we can grow the collection, sort of like Christmas decorations for your tree. Like every year it'll just get a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
So it'd be fun to work with him long term and see what kind of like inflatable world we can build together.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Cool, and they're probably like easy to store.
Yeah, they're really hard to fold back into the bag they come in, it's incredibly difficult, but they're easy enough to store. They've deflate down, so like you get a lot of bang for the storage buck.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And you don't mind, I know you're doing the collabo wall, which is probably like a character in a mix, but you don't mind not having your own wall? Like as a muralist, don't you get itchy and be like, I want to fucking crush something?
Yes and no. I mean, I'm glad I get to enjoy the trip and see everybody else's work come along. And last time I had the biggest wall and I didn't have enough time to do the collaboration wall. So I'm more excited really just to be on the collab wall and to get my work like mixed in with so many cool people.
Yeah, sick. Well, I'm super excited for it. I'm happy to be painting on it as well. I just can't wait for the lineup. Got Burning Spears and Damian Marley and Steel Pulse and Mike Love and etc. Super stoked. So where are you coming from? You live in Memphis, Tennessee?
You got it.
Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit about that town. I've never been there.
Memphis is big music city. It's cool, man. It's economically kind of going through some rough times. We got a lot of cool creative people. But to live and work there as an artist, you almost have to be willing to travel a lot, get paid elsewhere, and come back home.
Okay, but is it cheaper to live there if it's more broke?
It used to be. It's strangely expensive for the amount of money you make there. And so it's in a tough situation, but they'll figure it out. There's a lot of good people there.
And you're telling me you bought your spot during COVID? Was that like a cheaper time to invest into?
It was a terrible time.
Oh no!
It was like, I bought it impulsively. Like I was talking to a lady in Memphis, so I wanted to be in Memphis, and my dad died, and I was just like, oh, I need Earth, and like I went and just kind of bought one of the first places I saw, and it's cool. But definitely, I wasn't like a businessman about it in any type of sense.
Yeah. Where else have you lived, and what other parts of the country interest you if you would want to move past Memphis?
I'm not sure right now. I think I'm giving myself time to think about that. I might stay in Memphis, who knows? I lived in Chicago. I've lived in South Korea. I lived in South Korea for like 4 years. That was probably one of my favorite homes, and I think I daydream about it a lot still.
Okay. Asia is beautiful. I fucking love Asia.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel, if you go back to Asia, you would live in South Korea, or you give some other country a try?
Yeah, I feel hometown. I'd have to go back to South Korea.
Okay. What's so special about it?
Everything. I love that country. I love the art scene there. I love the artists there. It's where I started doing street art, was South Korea.
Okay, tell me about it.
I was trying to be a gallery artist. I'd sort of given up on that, and I was working as an illustrator for multiple magazines, and I kept seeing all this cool like character graffiti all around these abandoned areas of Seoul that they were redeveloping. And I just reached out blind to one of the artists on Facebook named Junk House, and she was like super kind and like helped me get my first wall. We painted a collaboration together, and it just spiraled into like I just want to be a part of this club. Like all I want to do is like be cool enough to like these 4 people.
Yeah.
And so like that started the whole career. I didn't think it would ever become a career.
Muralism, but you were an artist before?
Yeah, I went to school, high school for art. I've been a painter a long time and illustrator after that, but
so you already kind of had a style?
Not really. I think it all sort of like cemented when I started doing street art, because I needed to figure out something that would be able to finish in a night.
Right.
So
street art is a great place to like try styles, because it's so fast. You can do something today and be like, oh, that didn't work, but next.
And when I started out, I was using brush paint. So it was like, I would go with these buckets of paint in my backpack and just do monochromatic monsters. And it would take forever.
They didn't have spray paint out there?
They had spray paint, but Junk House didn't really use spray paint, and that's who I learned from initially. So it wasn't until a little bit later that I switched to spray paint.
Okay.
And so I was doing like illegal walls, but I was doing it with like a 60-pound backpack of
oh my goodness
bucket paints, and it'd just be monochromatic characters because I'd have black, white, and like a tint, like a hue.
You would glaze it after?
No. But I'd have little cups, and I'd mix the black with the red and the white with the red, and make different steps.
Cool.
Something that's way easier with spray paint because you can just go pink, red, dark.
Great.
You know.
Yeah, that's smart. I use the tints in India.
Mm.
Like in India, you don't buy a bucket of yellow or red. You just buy white and
the
just
little
put the tints. Yeah.
Same in South America.
Okay.
Um,
Cool. So tell me more about like, okay, you're in South Korea. What are you doing there? Like, were you trying to be an artist in South Korea?
I went out there. I graduated with a degree in art history, so I was unemployed, and I started working as a ditch digger in Mississippi for a plumbing company. And I knew that this wasn't it. I wasn't like having a great time.
Yeah.
And you could go to Korea and teach English if you had any degree. So I went into that. And then once I was there, I was able to switch that job and that visa into working for magazines doing illustration work. So I was doing that and still moonlighting as a English teacher, like on weekends. And that's kind of the world I was in over there. Got into the street art secondary.
Cool.
Yeah.
So after 4 years in South Korea, you got your swing with street art. Did you get to learn spray painting there, or?
I got into spray painting on a trip from South Korea to Thailand.
Oh, cool.
And I was over there and I painted at a meeting of style.
With part Bangkok, or?
I was in Bangkok. The meeting of style was outside of Bangkok in a smaller city. I can't remember now.
Yeah.
But they gave you spray paint. And so it was
Nice.
the first time I just had like a box of spray paint. And so started trying to work it out there.
How do you feel?
Awkward. Yeah, really awkward and dirty. And it took a second for me to get clean with it. So all my characters went from being this big to having to be like this big just to like work with the new medium, you know?
Yeah.
But it has so many advantages that you just stick to it. And it's addictive because it's not intuitive. The moment you stop focusing on the can and like respecting it as a medium, it goes into carnage again. So if you're not paying attention, it's messy and dirty.
Yeah,
and so it's fun
yeah.
to make these clean pieces.
It's almost like driving a car. It has to be like second nature where you're not even thinking about it anymore. You just know how to do it. But if you're not like I don't drive a car. So when I drive a car, I'm fucking focusing every single second, like, oh, don't run over anybody, don't crash. And, you know, so it's the same with the cans. You can't just like, you know, space out.
Yeah, you have to pay attention. You get better at doing it, of course, but I like that about it, that it's like, it needs you to respect it while you paint with it.
And by now you're an expert.
I wouldn't say that. Painting next to like Hyro, I don't feel like an expert, but I've become competent.
You're clean.
I'm clean enough, yeah.
Yeah, but you got your style. Your style's more like graphic.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so like you just gotta like put the lines where you want the lines to be. You're an illustrator.
Yeah.
You're an illustrator in large format with spray cans. You don't have to do realism, though you could if you'd wanted to.
Maybe.
Yeah, you think you'd want to learn realism at some point?
I don't know. I'm open to it, but then when it comes, like every time I get a chance for a wall, I kind of want to do illustrations, and so it cul-de-sacs me into not really learning how to do realism, because every chance I get, I'm like, it'd be cool to do a cartoon, and so I just start doing a cartoon.
Yeah, it's almost like you gotta start from scratch, and it's so much easier to just like keep on going in the groove
elaborating
that
like the path that you got.
Right.
It feels like that's where I'm at, and I feel like I'm still getting honey out of that walk. So as long as like it keeps being like enjoyable to me and it feels edifying, I'm okay with that.
You haven't plateaued yet. You haven't gotten to the point where it's like boring because it's like there's no boundaries to break.
Right.
How many years has it been since you've been spray painting?
Probably about 12 years.
Okay. Yeah, I'd say like I'm around that. I'd say 2010 I started getting into it more. I'd done it a handful of times before then, but so it's like, what are we, 2024? So that's like 13, 14 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I'm good enough, but when I look at my brother, who's like a graffiti dude since the 90s, his impeccability with spray cans, like I can't even believe it. You know?
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit, like now that can controls, I'm not there.
It's wild watching someone who can do the tiniest lines.
Or a perfect circle in one go, and or like a really straight, clean line without tape. It's like, whoa.
It's like watching Scribe. Scribe makes a character it'll be this large and it has all the detail you want in it. And so just little nerd things like that. Like it's incredible watching like a really experienced painter who can do everything you can do, but can do it the size of a quarter. You know, like that's the real flex.
And
I think,
all with
spray
pad
paint.
cans too.
Yeah.
Like pad can people who can do little tiny lines and then a gigantic line and go from gigantic to really small.
Yeah,
It's like,
don't switch caps.
wow. What do you switch caps a lot?
I go between a New York fat and a line 1, like skinny.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, pretty much.
I just use stock these days. I'm just so lazy. It's like, oh, I'll make it work. it does the trick. I go skinny enough and fat enough.
Right.
But you're going pretty big these days, huh? Big walls?
Sometimes. I've done a couple bigger ones, maybe 7 stories, 8 stories.
Wow, that's huge.
They're a lot of fun.
Do you get scared up there on the lift?
Yeah, terrified.
Yeah.
It's great to get paid first, because it makes you have to do it. Like,
and you know you'd have like money for your funeral, just in
you
case
got
you
funeral
fell off.
expenses. Yeah, I think it's good. I like those jobs because they make you rise to the occasion.
Yeah, I've never gotten a wall that tall. I saw your video of you painting this beautiful building in Memphis.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's really like something I'd like to do eventually. How do you get a wall like that?
That one was really strange. That one was, this was during like the big NFT boom. I sold my first NFT to this guy, anonymous guy online. And then he messaged me on Twitter and was like, I bought that NFT. You want to paint it on my building? And I was like, sure. And I assumed he had like a house and it was that exchange building.
So was that an NFT collector?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was very weird sort of happenstance.
Was the budget okay?
It was good.
Yeah?
It was good, yeah.
Cool.
We never even really discussed a budget. And then he ended up paying me pretty well.
Sick.
Yeah.
Cool. He got all the machines.
Yeah, got the nice machine. He also let me live in that building while I painted it, so it was like an awesome commute to work. And
great. Just come down the escalator or the
elevator and
elevator.
get to work.
That's cool. I saw in that video that you use the doodle
grid.
Doodle grid.
Yeah.
I've never done that. I just like project with with a projector and then I trace. To me, that's a lot easier. Why would you use a doodle? What's the advantage from your point of view?
Well, on a piece that big, it's really hard to project a wall that large. You'd have to rent like a $20,000 projector. 2, you can do it in the daytime, so you're not wasting a day. Say you arrive at a festival at 9 a.m., you don't have to wait until 7 p.m. to shoot and trace. You can get it done before lunch and still be going.
Okay.
So all around, it just seems to make more sense more often. And when I was painting a mural, when I was starting out, I was using a projector and some dude walked past and was like, oh, so that's how you do it. And I felt really bad about that because a projector has like a price for entry. It's not as bad as what it used to be, but it used to be sort of like, I didn't want people who like had no money come up and be like, I can't do this because you need money to do it. And so it got in my head and just became personal choice that whatever I did, I wanted to be able to do it with nothing more than my phone. Most people have phones. And so that was sort of
That's an interesting rule you've made for yourself.
Yeah, but that way if like someone comes up, I can be like, you can do it the same way I do it.
Yeah, well, but that's really cool that you got that in mind. It's like, well, I want to do art that anyone else could do. Like there's always that discussion if like projecting is cheating because it's a kind of tracing, but you're like, I'm just trying to save myself some time and get this on the wall. Like I drew it myself.
Yeah, I think that philosophy has become passé. I think there was a lot of that like in the late 90s, early 2000s, and the old graph heads are never going to be happy because you're using nice paint and you're using low pressure and special caps, and someone can always discount it. I think projecting is completely fine. I think that I work so often in Memphis has influenced like how I want it to be economically available.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, everyone just needs personal rules to guide their structure, you know?
So the doodle grid is just like you just do a bunch of random writing and then what? You look at your iPad real close.
You take a photo of it, and then you can get any sort of app for your phone. You can put Procreate on your phone. and you can throw your line work on top,
Uh-huh.
and it just becomes a reference for space. So
Yeah.
you know the sea here, you know the eye is going through the sea,
Right.
so you know to draw it there.
Does it make it kind of stiff though?
I guess it depends on the artist. I think if you're using a projector or a scribble grid, it's stiffer than drawing it freehand. But I feel like scribble grid is a little looser than the projector because you're still having to like make mental decisions as you go.
Yeah.
And so like,
I think once you do the fill-ins, you keep on correcting and moving things around. It's like you get a skeleton, and then from the skeleton, you're like, okay, now I'm gonna keep on
Yeah.
tidying this up.
yeah, I usually have pretty tight sketches, so I'm fine with it being like pretty reliant on the sketch. Especially at like big scale, I don't freestyle.
Okay.
It's like,
Really?
If it's 7 stories, no.
Oh well, yeah.
Like
that's
I'll
different.
freestyle within like my body space on that wall, but I want the structure very much in place.
So what do you like about muralism in general?
I like that you can be nomadic. I like that there's like a strong sense of community in the scene. I like, you know, getting to be outdoors. And they're also like, they're sand paintings. They don't last. A lot of times you take your little photo for Instagram, but what it edits out is that there's 6 people painting on either side of you. So they're receipts of social interactions, and they like force me out of the house. And
Right.
they made art fun, which made it possible for me to make a career out of it. Because when I was trying to be in galleries, it was so like stressful that I think it was like showing in my work, and so the work wasn't like flourishing, and so it gave me a reason to be passionate about art again.
So you were a fine artist first, and then you became a muralist. So, and obviously you find that being a muralist is a better way to making a living than to try to sell paintings, which is the same art, just different scale.
I sell paintings now. I just had a solo show, but for a while I think it was just murals was a better way to live a life. So I like the life associated with it.
Yeah.
I almost like, it doesn't matter what kind of art you do. It's just a rock to tie string around. Like whatever you're doing, like I could be like a plumber and it'd be the same thing. You need an excuse to wrap string. And street art connected with me in a way to where it was easiest.
Yeah. It's like, it's your expression either way, but in different canvases. And it's nice to have different outlets. Like, I get really tired of painting murals. Like, I need my months of break from being out painting walls with the fumes and the sun to be in the studio and then, like, really do a body of work. But then I'm like, I gotta get out and, like, hang out with people again. So it's a nice back and forth.
It's a good back and forth. I get real stir crazy in the studio pretty quickly. And so, like, for off days, I like to go paint on a warehouse or paint a train or something. To get out.
You really like collabos and jams, huh?
I like collabs a lot. I think they take the ego out of it, make me less self-conscious about why I'm doing it. Like, I know exactly I'm doing it to grow this friendship and to see something that I can't make by myself. So I think collabs are what got me into the scene, and collaboration is what makes me still feel close to it.
Who's some artist that you collaborate the most with?
In Memphis is a guy named Nosy 42. I paint with Casey Kawaguchi from Denver a lot.
I painted with him too.
He's a good guy.
Yeah.
Scent Rock from Chicago, I've painted with a few times. Hyro, I've painted with a few times. Kenji Chai, Kimchi Juice. A lot of people, man. I love painting with others.
Nice. And where has muralism taken you, like as for trips?
A lot of places. I painted a lot in East Asia. I painted in El Salvador. I painted in England and Germany, and I painted in Egypt.
Sick. Is it always festival? Or is it sometimes just a trip that you're like, I want to go and paint Egypt?
They're usually loosely constructed jobs. Sometimes they don't really pay. Sometimes they pay well. I just painted in Italy for the Pompeii Street Art Festival.
Okay, nice.
That was super fun.
Live in Pompeii.
Live in Pompeii.
Pink Floyd styles.
Yeah, they have a little museum for the Pink Floyd concert out in the Pompeii archaeological grounds.
Sick.
It was cool. But that one was a lot of fun because...
Do you want a drink of my
I'm good, bro.
soda?
That one was really fun because the diversity in that festival was through nationality. So it was like, it was one person from almost every person was from a different country. So every time you got together, it felt like the UN. It was really,
I was gonna say, like, what? You're Italian?
yeah. I was American. I think they had one more American, or no, Dan Kinchner. He's from England, maybe. So yeah, it was really cool, man.
That's so cool. How do you get into that whole scene of painting mural festivals? Because as someone who paints murals all the time, I never really gotten into it too much. Like just off where I'm local, but after that, I've never really got it embedded in there.
I've gotten lucky a lot. Some people just reach out sometimes, which is awesome. The Pompeii one, I was told about by a friend. They were like, "Oh, you're like way into like mosaics and Roman history. You should apply." And so I applied, and they sent me out.
Sick.
But I try to apply to things. It's getting more saturated these days, so
There's
definitely
a lot of muralists.
it's definitely a lot more competitive and a little trickier to like feel confident you're going to get in many festivals anymore.
Yeah, like how many muralist street artists is there these days? Like thousands, right?
Millions, yeah, it's a lot,
Millions,
and they're all really good.
Yeah, and they're all really good too. That's why I don't even like try to be like, hey, me too. I was like, well, I got my scene with the visionary and little bit things here and there. So I don't feel like, okay, street art mural world here also comes just like, all right, like let's just all have our little niches. But I always look at the muralist world, and it's fun because you get to leave your painting on the streets in all these different countries.
Right.
And that's really exciting when somebody gives you a big wall and the stuff that you need to paint it. Hi, I take a little break from our beautiful conversation here to tell you about Magic Mind. Did you ever watch this podcast and wonder, like, how come Chris is so relaxed? How come Chris is so intelligent and calm? And it's all because of Magic Mind, which has all these amazing natural healing mushrooms and matcha and very beautiful ingredients. They do great for my brain, and I thank you. And if you want to get some, it's 20% off with the code ChrisDyer20. So enjoy.
Yeah, it's a good time, man. And it's fun just to like, it's fun when you land at an airport knowing there'll be people there who will want to hang out and be friends. And it's all based on you both do like kind of a stupid thing that you both love. So like, I love getting, like when I went to Costa Rica, someone picked me up from the airport and he was like, he paints dumb cartoons. I paint dumb cartoons.
Yeah.
We don't know each other. This is going to be a great trip. So
Yeah,
like,
nice. Who was that?
There was a lot. There's Vueltas is out in Costa Rica. Rage, Mush is Costa Rica.
I know Mosho.
Oh yeah. He's really good, man.
What's the other guy I painted with? Fafi? FIFA? Fuck, I can't remember.
Painted with a guy named Crab
Okay.
Neo. He's really sick character artist from Costa Rica.
Nice.
But that shit's just so cool that you can like go anywhere and you're automatically plugged into something that feels authentic and like.
Right. You can crash on their couches. You'll probably help them crash too when they're in your
You're not
town.
gonna be like useless going to tourist sites. You have a person who's gonna like.
A purpose.
Yeah. Having
And-
a purpose is good.
And cool guidance.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the skate scene in a way, or the old school skate scene where it's like, I'm gonna go and skate Chicago, and then the locals would be like, okay, well, hold space for you, and
Yeah.
vice versa.
I think that's the best part about it.
How was Egypt? Did you go for a festival or for fun?
I went, for fun. I've always been super into Egyptian history, Egyptian mythology, and it was like after my first big paying gig, I just before the money like went anywhere else, I was like, all right, I'm going, and I took my friend David, and then I knew this woman out there who hooked me up with like a little wall to paint near her house, just to say I painted.
Nice.
But it was great, man. I love that.
I went,
country.
but before I spray painted, so I didn't paint a mural, but...
I had to use brush paint. They don't really have spray paint popping off.
Right. I went 2007, and I did a cruise down the Nile.
Oh, cool.
Did you do that too?
Nah.
Did you go to the ruins, or just Giza?
I went to a lot of ruins. We took a plane to the south.
Okay. Abu Simbel?
Yeah.
Oh.
And then Luxor and Karnak.
Okay.
But
By boat?
No,
By road?
we flew from Cairo to Luxor, and then took a trip down to Abu Simbel.
Okay, by bus.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that's kind of far away, but like it's not impossible in a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
It was fun, man. I really had a good time.
That's so exciting. So you're super grateful and stoked, and just like traveling the world, expressing yourself.
Sure.
Like
yeah.
very grateful.
I am grateful. I like. It's not lost on me that it's very like. It's a real privilege to get to do something so silly that takes you so far, and.
But
yeah.
your art's more than just silly cartoons. Tell me what you're doing, man. Like I know it's masked as lighthearted, psychedelic beings from a different dimension. But what are you trying? What's the code that you're putting behind it all?
I don't know. I think I feel like cartoons are a good delivery device where people don't turn their brains off when they see them. Sometimes you'll look at really dramatic work about a dramatic topic, but we're so like defensive to being told how to feel that like I think sometimes we don't take in the message when the presentation is really like dramatic or emotional. So I like the idea of like being able to talk about things like grief and loss and depression and kind of like overwrought topics, but do it in a light-hearted way to where like people can get to the message.
Right, because when you see a cartoon, it's almost like right away you think of kids.
Yeah.
This is the art for kids, and it's not like this intimidating like, thing. It's like, oh, like, if it's good enough for a kid, like I can handle this. Like it's not, it's nothing like overwhelming. What's your influences as for like, cartoons? Is there shows that you like, comic books, movies? What gets you going that like influences like the cartooniness of your art?
I grew up a pretty average kid. Influence. I was really into like Marvel and DC comics. I watched Ninja Turtles religiously, The Simpsons, a lot of things that you would expect from someone born in the late 80s. As a street artist, I think my early influence was this Italian dude named Blue, B-L-U.
Oh yeah, I know him.
Like he was really like, I was so into his work that
he's
like,
so simple but powerful at the same time too, and he had that animation thing that was like so
he did
crazy.
a lot of those animations, but his work was always like obviously his style and his work, and it's not overly complicated, but he was so good at getting his message, and they were still very illustratory in that they like illuminated a narrative, and so he was a big influence coming up.
Yeah, nice. He was quite political in his messaging. You're more like emotional, right?
Yeah, I'm much more inward gazing than his work is. I think my work's really like journalistic, and whatever's happening in my life is going to be what the next piece is going to be about. Yeah.
That's beautiful. I think that's truly what art should be about, like reflecting what's in the inside to the outside, or at least through the filter of your expression.
Right.
I think that's like the most service you can do humanity for your art, by just being honest.
Yeah, it feels like anything else probably wouldn't work. Let's say, regardless of what I would want my work to be about, I think first you have to like accept that your work has to be authentic. And so like, if I'm authentically just going through X, Y, and Z, then the work, it's got to be about X, Y, Z. Even if I want it to be about like elephants and like, it just won't work as real.
Does it make you feel like vulnerable to share your emotions to such a large audience and such a big canvas, or does it make you feel empowered that you can put yourself to this position of vulnerability?
It can make me feel both. Some things are like more explicit than others. So like when I do comics, there's words, and I think people don't mistranslate them nearly as much as like they can take visual art any which way. And so like I liken doing a fully visual piece to like running naked in public, but it's dark. So like I'm very exposed, but there's also this layer of hieroglyph that kind of prevents.
Yeah, it's coded.
Yeah, it's coded. But the comics, I can feel really vulnerable, but I've been really lucky to where like the response I get is very warm, overwhelmingly, and so I think that gives me the confidence to keep doing it and
Yeah.
try
I
to
think
open
that's
up more.
the most you can connect with your audience is by revealing the ups and downs of a human being.
Right, I think so too, and it's rewarding. I love doing murals because of the life and the experience, but once you take it to the audience, especially the way I talk to my audience is the internet, it's usually simplified to like fire emojis or happy faces. But if I do a comic book, I get like emails and like paragraphs, and it feels a little tighter. So I like those moments when you can share and they share back. I think that makes it feel a lot more edifying because it's not just you talking.
Right.
You're getting like call and response.
Yeah, I like that thing about comments. It's just more open for discussion and back and forth. Tell me about being a sensitive male. Like, it seems like, you know, I'm from Latin America. In Latin America, you're not encouraged to be a sensitive male. It's, you know, you'd be a pussy if you cry, and if you show how much you gotta be tough, you gotta be macho. And I had that thing thrown on me my whole upbringing that's been hard to break out and be like, hey, you know what? I'm a sensitive little pussy, and I got lots of love to give, and I got my strengths and my weaknesses, and I'm okay with that, and I love myself through that. How do you feel as an American showing your vulnerabilities?
Well, first, I'm from South Mississippi, so I think the stereotype for us is very similar. You're not really supposed to be emotional. Like, I think my last solo show was very much about how in the South, stoicism is mistaken as being heroic. And so the whole show is sort of about like these toxic male traits of needing to withstand pain to be heroic, and like being clever and to avoid pain is not really that heroic. And so I don't know. I think I was very lucky to be loved by my parents, and I think that helped. It gave me a foundation to grow and search myself for those things. I'm also like it's hard for me to like hide what I'm feeling naturally, so I think it was bound to like become.
But why hide it? Why do men have, what's it with this like boys don't cry shit? Like, why do we have to hide emotions? Like, what's wrong with crying? Crying is a human emotion that passes through us, that helps us release, so then we can find our balance, and we're blocking ourselves.
I think for like, as a Southerner, it comes from people pleasing. You don't want to make others uncomfortable with your emotions, so you learn to sort of like keep your emotions within a comfortable range, at least outwardly. But like we were talking about earlier, it would only make me make inauthentic work, because I felt a lot of emotions in the past decade, and so they're all going to come up at some point if I'm trying to make authentic work. And so I think our work has helped me face like processing my emotions and processing like what it means to be like male. And so I'm very thankful to that and having that tool of art to like sort of like unpack those things for me.
Beautiful, man. Congrats, and thanks for doing that, and for others, because I think the more we make ourselves honest and vulnerable and sharing our experience with its ups and downs, the more others can do that too. And if we all can put down our guard and be like, hey, here I am, we all got good parts and bad parts, let's all be, because when you're defensive, it's almost like, first you're hiding. Second, you want to see if you can see what others are hiding so you can attack it, and then you're in a position of advantage, and that's the whole, like, you know, almost maybe cancel culture or us versus them division society we live in today. And if we could all just drop the guard and be like, hey, goods and bads, how can we find compassion to heal each other, then we could, like, you know, harmonize and bring more healing to the whole world.
Right. I do think the space in general is more open to our feelings than it was 10 years ago.
Uh-huh.
So there's been some good in society. I think it's a lot
We're
easier.
growing up.
Yeah. I think it's a lot easier to talk about like unpacking your feelings, and we have also the vocabulary now in place that I didn't have growing up. So it's a lot easier to sort of like articulate what we're going through.
Uh-huh. Tell me about your guide to grief or your grief manual.
Oh, right. The Grief Manual is a book I started writing pretty shortly after my mom passed away. She died really suddenly.
Uh-huh.
And
Sorry to hear that.
I appreciate it. And I just needed a way to keep myself accountable to processing it.
Yeah.
And so I started it as a Patreon, and people signed up, and I do like bi-monthly issues.
Uh-huh.
And it was just a way to where like I had to be held to account to sit down and write these scripts for the comic, and then work on the comic and meditate on the topic. It was really helpful for me to like dedicate not only like this big product that was like there was something Protestant in it. I'm going to spend a lot of hours making a thing to reflect how much I care about my mom.
Yeah.
There was also this situation where it was like I can't run from it. I have to deal with it. And
Yeah.
so it was really edifying, and it was cool because I got so much feedback about what other people are doing with their grief, and it's one of my proudest things I've ever made, just because the relationship with the audience is so cool, and they share so many like very like vulnerable things back with me. And
Right.
so it took about 2 years, and then by the end my dad had died. So I made an addendum to make some specific sort of about him and the new feelings of grief, because grief, it's constantly in flux and it mutates, and the way I lost my dad and how I felt with him was so different than how I felt with my mom.
Right.
And so it was a strange ride. I was glad people like were receptive to it, and yeah, really proud of it.
That's awesome, man. Because it's such the sadness of people dying is such a potent and almost unifying feeling in humanity. One of our past guests, Trine, he was sharing about grief too, because his son had suicided. And he said that it was a whole process. He said it very honestly, and it was a whole process he had to go. It's almost like it grew him, like these deaths, that as much as they had sadness, helped them bring you flowers and fruits. Do you feel like you became a better person through the appreciation of life before the inevitable death that we all have to go through?
I think it's still in process. I feel inevitably like I'm at a different chapter of life now. It's irreversible. I think once you like, there's like pre-grief and then post-grief lives that you live. I think I'm more thoughtful about other people's experiences in certain ways. I think I'm like more appreciative of the people in my life for sure. But it's still, yeah, it's a complicated thing. I miss them every day. But very grateful to have had them. And so,
Right. Well, I'm sorry that you went through that. My mom just went through 4 months of chemo, and they finally operated her yesterday. And they removed, she had breast cancer, and they removed the thing there. So I think she's in the
That's
clear.
great. Yeah.
But I was also kind of like already preparing myself to like, hey, if she dies, you know, I observe life as eternal. So for me, it's just like, I know she doesn't die, but I won't get to see her for 40 years till
Yeah.
I cross myself
right.
to the eternal world. And of course, I'll miss her. But I guess my priority is I just don't want her to suffer
Right.
in life,
Right.
you know, or in physical existence, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, do you ever feel like, do you believe in psychics and the ability of perhaps contacting her through somebody else?
I'm not against the idea. I don't know if it would be effective with me. Like I don't know if I am open enough
Yeah.
for it. not. I'm too suspicious of like people I don't know, especially with something as vulnerable as like my mother and her
Right.
memories. Like I'd be very,
Right. It's a sensitive topic.
it'd be very tough. Yeah.
Well, I'm just gonna put it out there that if you ever feel like you got things that you still would like to communicate with any of your parents, I know people who work as good telephones to that, and then you yourself will feel out if they're bullshit or if they're saying things that you're like, oh shit, that's how like my parents speak. Only if you need it. I'm just putting
I
it out there.
appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Because like I've been able to talk to my grandmother and like put things at peace and know that she's okay on the other side of reality. And well, you know, we were speaking about psychedelics during breakfast, and I was telling you like how doing I or DMT like gets you out of the physical plane, and then you see yourself that this is just like an avatar video game reality, and that's actually the real reality, and that we're just kind of like playing some cool TV show movie here. But on that side, we're all just one interwebbed consciousness, and we exist in eternity, infinity of love, and there's no problems really, or less issues. So when you come back here, things seem like lighter in a way. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I can continue playing this video game knowing that there's a lot more after.
Right. It's good to zoom out.
Totally.
Yeah.
Do you work with psychedelics sometimes?
I guess the easy answer is no. I've done mushrooms a number of times in my life, and had really like important moments with them where like I felt like my life was like substantially different going forward. Like I was at peace with certain different things. But a lot of that's in the rear view. Like it's been a long time. So it's something I've been thinking about lately. I feel like I'm at a crossroads now, and I'm like open to whatever can unstick the block.
Yeah. Well, once again, I don't know really where you're at your part of process with grief or the. I think we all got issues. Like you can be human and not have issues,
Right.
and I think plant medicines are here to help us out, kind of like get better reflections or to like learn, you know. But it's also not for everybody. Like it just might not be for you. But I guess like I kind of assumed by looking at your colorful characters that you're like, oh, this guy's like might be a psychedelic dude.
Oh, right. Yeah, I get asked that a fair amount. I think it's fair to wonder when you look at my work. But yeah, not against him at all. Very like, very open to the idea.
Well, and this whole thing of is muralism like your main bread and butter, your main activity, or do you still continue doing illustrations and licensing? Like, is there other ways to, finance the artist lifestyle when there's like a downtime in muraling?
Right. Not really. I need to diversify more. Majority of my income comes from murals. A portion comes from illustration, and then last year I'd say a solid half came from sales of canvas work.
Then you have a solo show, Lee.
Yeah, just in February.
How's that?
It went well. We made plush dolls, and they sold out, and made a lot of paintings and mosaics, and they sold. So grateful to have those, but always looking for more. You know, the scene is changing rapidly, and it's a strange career path where you have to like think far ahead, because even if I wanted to, I don't know if I'd be painting big walls at 65.
I am questioning like mid-50s. Like I'm 45 and already my knees are like, damn, do you want to be bending this much, like, you know, for the rest of your life?
Right. And will those jobs be there? Like how murals for a long time were not an economic factor. And then it blew up, and a lot of us have jobs. And I think I'm naturally nervous about like how long that lasts, or does it shift? What relationship does my income have with like the advent of AI, with a saturated market, with like kids growing up now with 1,000 street art influences?
Right.
Well, like when I came up, you had to like go out of your way to sort of find the scene. you don't have to go out. It's mainstream now.
Yeah, there's too many books now.
Yeah, so it's great in one hand because we're getting to live in that right now. But what does it mean for us in 5 years or in 2 years?
Do you feel like muralism and street art is on the downturn?
Not necessarily, but it's at an unprecedented place. It's like it's mainstream, and I think when things go mainstream,
Everybody wants a bite of it?
everyone wants a bite of it, but it also becomes like the power is now in the hands much more of the job providers. Like I don't wield a significant part of the culture now, and maybe I did a time ago, but now like I have a smaller fraction of it, so they can come to me with like a humbler price, knowing that there's 300 people behind me who will take that job. And that's just a part of like market saturation, and it happens. You can't be mad at it, but it does make you want to go like, all right, what do I need to live comfortably, and what can I do to like provide that to where it's not all in one basket if that basket changes. And
Right. No, it's good to diversify.
yeah.
And like have different offerings. Tell me about your mosaics. That's something I didn't know what you does.
I think that was like a weird defensive response to advanced technology. I think I saw like AI coming out and all my friends leaning towards learning the programs, and I was like, well, I'm going to go more caveman than ever and just start like gluing rocks into
Go roots. No one
wet
can do rocks
concrete.
these days.
And my work generally, when it's not super personal, it generally revolves around mythologies, usually Greek mythology. And so I thought of it as a cool opportunity to be able to make something feel like it relates to that topic without having to do like visualizers to like beat it over the head. Like I don't have to do an olive wreath on the character or put them in a toga. Just the stone itself can make it feel like it's part of that conversation. And so I started playing around with it, had a lot of fun. Found this like cool place in Georgia where I can get southern stone. So it's like this like very southern thing that like relates to the mythos. And then when I went to Pompeii, I saw like all these incredible pieces at the Naples Museum, and just doubled down on it, and
So cool.
I really enjoy it. I would love to do like a big outdoor mosaic one day. I haven't done that.
Wow, that's very unique. Like I don't know a lot of people who do mosaic. And yeah, in a world where now people can make the most beautiful painting at the press of a button or at the writing of a sentence, it's almost like seems logical to be like, oh, everybody's gonna go technological. I'm gonna go the other way. I'm gonna do something that nobody can do at the press of a button. That actually takes even harder effort to put together.
Well, the
Makes it more special.
I got a bug in here. I'm sure you can make way better mosaics with a CNC machine and a laser engraver. So it's not like I'm outsmarting technology, but I think it's just like a way for me to like aggressively and mindfully want to put it into like, I'm making handmade objects. Like I can't compete with something that's not handmade, but I can make it to where the advantage is it's handmade.
Well, it's not like removing technology 100% from our process.
Yeah.
It's okay if you want a projector. It's okay if you got some machine to help you chip the rock just right.
Yeah.
But maybe the extreme is like, I got a chisel and a hammer and I'm carving a stone I found in the park. And the other side of the spectrum is like, hey, make me a painting so I can take a nap and then call it my art. It's like,
but yeah, I chip my own stone.
oh wow, you do actually grab a cheese. Wow.
Yeah.
Sounds terrible for the joints.
It's probably horrible for my hands, but it's a lot of fun. It's kind of like shucking pecans or something. Like you can just put on a terrible TV show and break stones for 2 days and then start gluing them. I just have a lot of fun with it. I think it's just one of those earnest things where I just love the way mosaics look, and so I naturally want to copy them.
Do they sell?
Yeah, so far. Maybe they'll never sell again, but
Yeah, nice. I hope that you're charging enough to make it worth the investment of time and energy.
you know how it is making prices. It's
Yeah.
absolute alchemy. Like
So you would not touch anything AI, or do you?
No, I'm not.
Can you appreciate it from afar?
I'm not against it in any way. I think it's silly to fight against it. It's here. It's only going forward. I have concerns about what it means to be an artist going forward, and most of them are career based and financial based. Like, I'm worried about like outsourcing to AI, because the pool for like finances in the arts seem to only be getting smaller through the centuries, and like I don't know what it'll take for like a brand to decide like it's way easier to put AI imagery on a coffee bag than put my work. Some people are large enough to where you're a brand itself. Like I have that a little bit, but like you have it a lot more. People will come to you because they want Chris Dyer, but I think that's the exception to the average artist life who's not a pronounced brand yet.
Yeah,
and like
it makes the climb harder.
Yeah, it makes so trying to become a brand in a world where like AI also exists, it's just going to be that much more difficult, I think. So I'm a little worried for me. I'm much more worried for artists who are just now starting out.
Yeah,
it could be a rough walk.
It's discouraging when, like, even an artist who wants to get good at painting is like, oh, I could put like 5 years into getting good at painting, or I could do a prompt and already have the image, and everybody is gonna give me my likes on social media, and that's how I'm training my response.
Serotonins.
Right. Yeah. It kind of like makes it tougher to just do something for the pleasure of like, wow, I did this thing.
Yeah.
You know?
It was already tough because I think if you're old enough, you get your whole 20s to make a lot of mistakes. Visually, just with your arts. You can have terrible, terrible paintings for your whole 20s. You figure it out by the end of your 20s, and then you can have a little career. But you've aged and you've seasoned.
Right.
A lot of the young artists that I know, they got out of school maybe at 22, and they felt like they needed a branded style immediately. Because they like grew up with social media.
Right.
They grew up
even during school, they're already supposed to be popular.
So they need to figure out exactly what's going to define them for like the rest of their career at like 22, and they have no life experience outside of school, and it's like it's not fair to them that they have to like pickle themselves that young. You should get time to sort of get messy, and so it's that on top of like AI pressuring us to like
be impeccable in technique.
Yeah, go at low wages too. Like, why would you deal with an artist who's difficult to work with and like, you know, has like complaints or like wants to fight for his contract when AI never like has difficulty with you? Like, it's bad business to work with an artist unless the artist can bring you more customers, and that funnels us back into us needing to be strong brands and not necessarily strong
and have,
artists.
Like social media popularity, what's your number? It's like, that's so whack, you know? Like, as somebody who does good with social media and numbers, it's like, yeah, but that's not why I want you to buy my art. I want you to buy my art or use it or license it or whatever, or interact with it because you feel a spiritual connection with it, and it raises your mood, not because it's going to bring you more followers. I guess like with a product, it makes sense that they want more exposure and make more sales. Sure.
But that's what festivals need too. Like, everyone who has sponsors, they need more eyes, and they're going to be studying the analytics, and like,
so it just becomes a business, and it removes the whole spiritual connection that art should be about. It's too, like, and I'm not saying like fuck business, it's part of it.
Right. It doesn't remove it, but it vastly complicates it, and it puts yet another barrier between like the artist and being in that moment of like enjoying building art.
Right. And not that like AI is totally void of spirituality. I'm sure some spirit is working through it that also brings something to flower, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not worried about AI. I feel like people will always value something that was made by an imperfect human over something. Right now, there's a novelty of it. It's like, oh wow, look at all these amazing things we can do so easy. But at one point, Already it's very recognizable. Maybe at one point it'll be unrecognizable.
I think that's the way it's going. It's like that. It'll be interesting to see what it looks like in 10 years.
The only way it will become unrecognizable is if it brings down its quality.
It can though. It can lower the detail level, but soon it'll just be interesting to see it. The photos from it are very wow. The videos are insane. Like how scheming the video is.
I feel more bad for digital artists who were already using the tool of the computer to make something of that general vibe.
Yeah.
And now you can do it at the snap of a finger. It's almost like those jobs got removed. While the painter, the computer would have to grow robot arms and start painting, or have a full body to do a mural.
Well, the thing with murals is I already know multiple people who have been hired who were like artists themselves who are now craftsmen because they get hired and the job already has an AI image they want. And so they're being hired to install.
That sucks.
And that's where it's great to know the craft. You can still get work, but it's a different line of work.
Right.
It's craftsmanship.
To each their own. I would still hope that people will still want a mural in your flavor, in your personal soul expression. Same with me, and I've shown up to jobs, and the guys be like, "I just did this with AI. Can you paint this?" And I'm like, "Hell no! I paint as I paint, and you got me here because I got something unique to offer that a lot of people will like. If you called me here, it was for that. If you want this, I don't know. I guess that's not like that. To me, that's not art anymore. That's just
installation.
Yeah,
No.
it's just like, okay, become a printer, human printer, but I don't know. That's not interesting.
Some
to
people
me.
can really like love the zen of just painting. Like it doesn't matter what they're painting, they can get into it. I've never been that. Painting is the work part that I like the idea and I like completing it, but like painting, it's work. I can enjoy moments of it, but definitely not if I'm not painting my own stuff.
Right. No, like for sure there's times where you get tired and it's hot and you got a mask and there's a fumes and sometimes the music's too loud and you're like, fuck, I wish I just like in an air conditioning studio right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. There's always goods and bads of everything.
There is. It'll be interesting. I think what it does to like the nation's idea of truth will be really interesting. There's already like weird photos that are being like that are changing people's political views that are completely created, and that will get more complicated. And I don't think people will start believing false images. I think they'll stop believing all images.
Everything's on doubt right now.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, what's real, what's not. It's almost like we really got to waking up our spiritual instincts for what's bullshit and what's manufactured. And a lot of it is, even before AI, most of it is like a theater show, especially in politics, that we have to really like feel it out with our spidey sense to what is correct.
Right.
So do you feel like, you seem like a generally socially conscious person. Do you ever communicate that or any political views through your art, or do you stay out of that realm of expression?
I do. I feel like it's very like arbitrary. There's moments in my life where I think I have space to be like a social advocate. And there's other times in my life where like I feel like I'm so focused inward that like I'm not very good at advocacy. But like when I have the space and I have the platform, I like to talk about like politics I care about.
It's got to feel authentic.
It's got to be authentic. It also has to be like, I think I have so much like anxiety that like if I have a lot of personal anxiety already, I'm not going to add to it with like I'm putting myself out here to get yelled at on the internet for my beliefs as well. And so usually when I'm in a good state of mind, I'm politically pretty active. But then when I'm not, I'm real quiet.
Totally. Like in general in the world, like the world seems like it has so many problems and so many issues, and it's very easy to believe that we would all end up in some kind of terrible apocalyptic future. But I can only hold on to the idea of positivity that humanity will get the lesson one way or another at some point, and we will evolve into a positive reality. Do you have optimistic points of view of the future, or Any reflections?
Do I feel positive on the future? I try in my day to day. I'm trying to be more positive. I think I'm probably a little more on the pessimistic side, but I try to work on it. I'm very nervous about the trajectory of humanity, its relationship with the earth and with each other. Um, but it'd be hard to get out of bed if you think that way nonstop. So
We gotta at least try to contribute for a positive world, and it's not done yet. And we have been making improvements, as you admitted earlier. Like things are also getting better.
yeah, there's
Wow.
things going better.
But do you think sometimes these negative things were always there? It's just we didn't have a camera pointed at them. Like what's happening right now, that's happened before, probably repeatedly, but we never really had a focus on it. So perhaps it's more like a magic trick where now we're just being flooded by the negativity happening in the world. And I'm sure there's even more than we can see, which kind of like overwhelms us in our perspective of what's happening on this planet, while there's a lot of good, beautiful things happening too. That's just not exciting news.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think it's natural to focus on problems because they're the things we want to attend to. But there's a lot of beautiful things in the world, obviously, and for sure. We just saw a dolphin. That was pretty
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, there's good things going on, man.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for meeting me here for this conversation. I'm excited to do this festival with you.
Yeah,
Would you
man.
have some final words of advice for the different artists that are tuning in, or anybody who wants to connect with your art and the vibes that you pass on?
Advice, be nice to everyone. You don't know what position they'll play in the future, and how much it will affect you. To be nice every day will do dividends for your career more so than your artistic talent and drive. Just stay kind, and yeah, you can find me on the internet, BirdCap, if you want to
BirdCap.
holler at me.
What's up with your name, anyways?
I learned how to do street art from a lady named Junk House, and I just wanted my name to kind of have the same cadence as hers.
It seems like a lot of street artists have like two names kind of vibes, like
Oh,
Ghost Beard.
that's true.
And Neckbeard and I don't know.
Neck face.
Yeah, Neckface and Case Rock. Sense Rock?
Scent Rock.
Sand Rock. The bird
Bad
guy.
Scent Rock.
His name should be BirdCap.
We get mistagged all the time. It used to be worse when we painted together more often, but people would constantly tag his character as BirdCap.
Why did you name yourself that?
After Junk House, also, it's like the phrase, you have a feather in your cap. Well, like a whole lot of feathers would be a bird cap.
Oh,
So,
damn.
Lots of luck.
That's so flossy, man. Well, thank you so much, Michael.
Yeah, man,
I appreciate you.
Have a good one, man.
Woo, you too. Blessings. And thank you guys for watching another episode of Chris Dyer's Creative Friends. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share all those super fun things, and I'll see you in the next episode. Blessings.
Boom, boom, boom.
Next episode, Future Joy. Is it all about the money? Is it about accomplishing certain goals,
World collaboration, let's say, rather
Yeah.
than domination.
or
just
healing the world with your
I think
medicine?
that is a huge thing.
Spreading joy.
When people come up after a show and talk about just like how much we lifted their spirits, and like whether they had a bad day and it made it better, or just this was a life-changing experience. It's just I just want to keep doing that.
And I think the goal is to just keep spreading joy. I mean, it's in our name. It's like creating this community. I have met some of the most incredible, inspiring, creative, positive people in the past 4 years of this project that we've been doing together. And it just is building. And it's just like kind of planting our little seeds of joy everywhere and seeing like what is attracted and what we can put out is just like infinite.
So please make sure to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Big thanks and see you next episode. Peace.